Circle and Ripple are applying for banking licenses, and I can't help to feel like this is going to end a lot like the end of Mary Poppins. But more on that in a second. Welcome to Cryptocurrents, the weekly podcast of people working in crypto and blockchain actually talking about what's important in crypto and blockchain. No FOMO, no shilling, just everything you really need to know. Think of us like the perfect For You page. Everything is interesting and engaging, and then you look up and you go, oh wait, where did 20 minutes go? I'm your host, Vince, and today I'm joined by our resident degen, Kale.
What's up?
And Katya.
Hey.
So we'll talk about Circle and Ripple in a bit, but first I want to talk about dating. Specifically dating shitcoins. So Chain, which is the chain from Kraken, just launched Inky, which very clever naming there, guys, which is Tinder for shitcoins, where users can just, swipe left or swipe right, and then be able to, ape into these coins. And I can't think of something that is more stupid and antithetical to actually building relevant and interesting technology. But Kale, talk to me otherwise.
I mean, I definitely see where you're coming from. Shitcoins are a pretty divisive topic in crypto, but for the shitcoin enjoyers, it's definitely, I think, a step in the right direction. It feels, unnecessary because we don't really need this. But yeah, it gamifies it a little bit more, makes it a little more engaging. I was trying it yesterday. I've only been on it for like maybe 15 minutes.
Okay.
From what I've noticed, at least, it's like missing a key. It's missing a few key things, like socials, for example. Like if you're swiping on tokens, if you want to like look at the details of a token, they don't have a button that will like link you to their Twitter or any type of socials, which is like really big for me. Is when I'm buying meme coins, so I want to see like what impact they have on social media. And then also the chart. You can't really like drag your finger over the chart to see what the price was on what day. So like little UI, UX things like that can be improved. Um, but I mean, overall, it's pretty cool. I think it's like a cool little toy.
So how easy is it to then ape into these coins? Is it like connected with your Kraken account? You can just immediately be like, yeah, buy me.
Yeah. So
Wow.
you just there's a button like front and center. Just says top up when you have $0, and then you click that. It's like a 2-3 minute process, and then you add money into the thing, and then then it's just a button press. You swipe left or right whether you like or don't like the token, and then buy. It's
Gotcha.
super simple.
I do think a lot of people are going to start ripping off the Starbucks model of topping up your wallet for like other, experiences. Just that way they get your money immediately. And so many people are just going to forget about that money, which I think is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I can totally see that.
Katya, you are also our resident Tinder user. I'm kidding. Talk to me about swiping on meme coins.
Pause while Katya sues Vince for slander. But
Defamation.
defamation. Um, so my understanding from the videos, I haven't used the app, but is that you actually, as soon as you swipe right, it buys it, right? Like the swipe motion, you don't even have to like
No, no. So
press
when you
like the
swipe right,
swipe.
it adds it to your favorites.
Oh, okay. Because from the videos, I got the impression that like when you swipe, it just buys it, which I was thinking like that is a door to so much error by,
Mm-hmm.
it's like if on the actual Tinder, every time you swipe right, it sends them your phone number or something, like uh that would be but if not, then that's better. That I'm relieved. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think my general position on gamification in financial apps is quite conservative,
Mhm.
in terms of like, I don't really think that for most people, or at least for me, like, I don't really necessarily want my financial app to be fun. Like, I want it to be secure. I want it to be clear. I want it to be well thought out in terms of UX, to give me, like Kale was talking about, like to give me those things that I want, that I'm gonna want to see, like it doesn't need to be a game for
Mhm.
me to play, but but I'm just generally more kind of subdued that way. So yeah, I don't know. I guess it's fun. It's a fun toy to play with, but I don't know. I think eh, I don't know. It's one more app on your phone that like
For me,
One
it's
more
also
Kraken
like
app.
it's also an app that is not going to last, right? This is clearly just Kraken has money to burn, and they're like, hey, this is a good way to kind of take a percentage of people aping into these things, or maybe drive more users to Kraken. But this is certainly not an app that is going to stand the test of time.
it's almost, yeah, like now that you say that, I think they just have so much money that they can develop an app just like as a socials post.
An experiment.
Like just like as an engagement social strategy, and then like it doesn't matter if it goes away in a week. Like it was so, which is just, mind blowing in terms of like how much resources some of these bigger crypto companies have at this point.
For
Like the
sure.
the crack thing. Imagine if crack isn't even something that they want to pursue. It's just a marketing thing.
I
That
do
would that
think
would be funny.
I do think Crack is something they want to pursue. I think everyone wants to be your everything financial app. And it's kind of a race condition at this point. And I think that it is the early version of what they wanted to ship, but they kind of see the way the industry is moving right now and are like, oh, we need to move, even if it's just the beta version.
I can see that. Yeah,
Because holy hell, it crashes a lot, man.
dude.
It
Yeah.
does.
Speaking
Yeah.
of, I just checked, and you didn't send me the $10
I
today.
know. It's been a morning. I'll do that after we finish recording.
For sure.
And speaking of Kraken and being a morning, this is not one of our things we prepped for, but the Pump.Fun ICO was just announced this morning as of recording this, 7/9, July 9th for the Europeans in the world. Um, because dates are weird. And Kale, you're excited for this. You're hoping that you're going to get some sort of airdrop as a user. I think it's interesting that Kraken is also again all in on this. Like they reposted the fever dream of the Pump.Fun ICO. And Katya, you commented about how you haven't seen the term ICO in many, many years. Is this the
I
start of the
thought that
return?
I thought that it was phased out due to bad juju, bad press, like towards the end of the ICO period when it lost its credibility and was a joke and wasn't exciting anymore. And I thought that they transitioned to like airdrops, and then there were exchange token offerings and things like that. So I thought that it was retired permanently, but apparently not. Here we are. I guess
Let's bring
a
it back.
anniversary tour of the ICO.
Turns out when everyone said we're so back, baby, they just meant ICOs.
There you go.
And I wonder if this kind of parlays into our next topic, which is the Robinhood and the kerfluffle they're currently having with the tokenized stocks, quote unquote, of OpenAI. And so I wonder if these kind of go part and parcel, where we've got Robinhood saying we've got a tokenized offering of these shares of stock, and OpenAI is like, you can't sell our stock. And they're like, well, this is a derivative because we own shares. So we're actually going to offer these tokens that are rights to these shares, which is basically an ICO, right? And last week we all kind of identified the interesting opportunities that that could provide. But this drama between OpenAI and Robinhood has been very interesting to watch unfold. It was like a cool splashy moment at ETHCC, and then because of this drama, because of just a tweet from OpenAI, they're being like, "We're not associated with this. What is this?" It has just given Robinhood so much press and so much coverage for their CEO going on every talk show to talk about it
Sure.
that, man, it feels like they're in cahoots. But what are your guys' thoughts?
I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. That's funny. Did you see the CEO's response though? Like
Uh,
his general response to OpenAI denying any involvement.
what? No.
The
What?
the Vlad
Which
guy.
ones? Which ones specifically?
The Vlad. think his name is like Vlad
Yeah.
Tenov or something. But
Tenant,
Yeah.
yeah, blood
he,
tenant.
he basically responded and was like, "Oh, it's no biggie. We're not worried about it. Like, chill, dude." The way I understand it is, it's like comparing USDT or USDC or
Mm.
DAI or any stablecoin to fiat US dollars.
Yeah.
So it's like the Fed saying like, "Oh yeah, Coinbase uses USDC, but they don't use dollars. It's not
Hmm.
dollars. It's USDC. And
Right.
this is a similar thing where OpenAI is like, yeah, you guys don't have our equity, but like it's just a different thing that represents their equity. So yeah, I don't know. It feels kind of just unnecessary. I like really would not be surprised if it is a marketing thing because I'm
Yeah.
sure Robinhood has that kind of money, and it feels weird that like OpenAI would be caught out in the open and like not know anything about this, you know? So I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think it's also, for me, I think it's interesting because I don't think OpenAI will ever IPO. So I'm like, no one's going to acquire OpenAI.
Hmm.
Like their valuation is so high, so it's just kind of like the promise of these equity shares that may never come to fruition. Which feels like a very crypto thing to do, as far as Robinhood airdropping, millions of dollars of these just Fugazi tokens.
Hmm.
But Katya, what are your thoughts?
Honestly, I was quite disappointed because I'll be honest with you, I did not understand, and I wasn't the only one, I'm sure, but I did not understand this during Robinhood's presentation. I thought that they were in agreement with OpenAI and it was
Mhm.
like actual tokenization of stocks. And in the end, it's a nothing sandwich. It's not actual tokenization of stocks. It's an ICO of a thing that Robinhood owns. So it's not an actual tokenization of OpenAI. And it's kind of like an ironic reversal almost of like, when we talk about crypto to people who don't know about crypto, we're like, oh, you know, unlike with your bank account, etc., because of this and that, you actually own this thing on chain. Like nobody can take it away from you. Like you actually own this. This is a sort of reversal. You can actually own the token from Robinhood, but that doesn't mean that you own the stock
Yeah.
because you don't. And I think this brings up like the news itself wasn't that news. It was just Robinhood. Like if Robinhood bought a Picasso and decided to tokenize it, that would be the same thing.
Yeah.
Like this is, and I think that brings up a big point about this general trend of tokenization of real world assets in general and the issues that are going to be going forward in terms of like what actually backs this, right? Like, let's say somebody says this is an RWA of a certain type of bond, of US bond. How do you check that it's actually represents that bond? How do you check that the bond issuer knows about this and says, yes, we are backing this RWA token with the actual bonds?
Mhm.
Or you're just buying from an intermediary, like in this case, Robinhood or whatever else it is, whatever the platform is. And the value of that token only depends on the intermediary. Like the actual issuer of the actual real world asset is like, I don't know what that is. Like I got nothing to do with that. What? So like
What is
good
this?
good for you, like like so I think it's everybody's very excited about it and about the possibility of tokenization, but I think of real world assets and stocks specifically. But I think there's so much more to figure out. And unfortunately, I think that many, many, many people are going to be taken in for something that's not going to. I'm not saying that the Robinhood AI, Open AI stock is going to be this. I
Yeah.
wish them the best. But I think a lot of people are going to be taken in by things that are not going to be what they claim to be as this unfolds, as this develops.
Yeah, I wonder if this is kind of just because there are secondary markets for like private equity. Like, say you become an employee of whatever company's startup, and they're like, "Yeah, we're going to give you 10,000 shares." You can actually go to these secondary markets. I think one is called like Bumblebee, and just sell those to Bumblebee either on the marketplace or to Bumblebee itself. And I feel like this is just kind of that same thing where, yeah, you're because Robinhood does have a XYZ number of shares in OpenAI. They're one of the investors. Um, I wonder like what the legality is. There's just a lot of questions. And I feel like you're right.
Exactly.
We're gonna run into a lot of problems because there's no clarity and there's no necessary understanding of what happens to ownership of anything when you like give someone a part of it. Like they can technically, I guess, do whatever they want, but maybe not.
Yeah, it's all really good questions.
Only blockchain could solve those. If only. Well, okay. So, the Robinhood stuff started at ETHCC. For those that are not familiar, ETHCC is one of the top Ethereum crypto conferences in the world. It usually takes place in France somewhere, generally. And yeah, so there were some key takeaways that the industry got from that. And kind of the two that jumped out to me are privacy and mobile first. Um, so let's talk about mobile first, because I do think that that's one of the most interesting things for me. I've always felt that the future of everything is on your phone. Whether it's personal finance, whether it's maybe not necessarily gaming, but like any sort of management, maps, uh, if I could do it from my phone, that's just better for adoption and use of my thing. At the end of the day, there's 8 billion people in the world, and only 1 billion of them probably have computers, but a lot more have cell phones because you can buy a cheap Android for, 50 USD, which is doable in some of these emerging economies, and be able to do crypto. But talk to me about a mobile first future for crypto specifically.
I just one thing that I always have to say about that, I agree. Like I think it's inevitable because of the thing that you mentioned. The main argument here is how many people in the world have access to phones versus computers.
Mm.
But there's also this psychological thing that pops up with users a lot. Like I've written articles about this from you, like how people perceive a computer, a desktop or a laptop, as being more secure than a phone. Although that's not necessarily true, especially like if you're talking about iOS and the security of the key, whatever the name of that special like key storage.
Passkeys. Oh, the secured
Yeah,
enclave.
yeah, exactly. Anyway, so there are many arguments, legitimate arguments, that a phone under certain circumstances is more secure than a computer. But psychologically, people perceive like it's bigger, like there's just more security in there because it's so big. And the other thing is that I don't know if you've seen these memes, but this is true for me and for a lot of people I know, that like you can do like some research on your phone, but when it's time to buy something big, you got to get on your computer, like open your tabs,
I think
whatever.
that's your
So
age
like
showing.
probably, but and I noticed that for me and for a lot of people, psychologically, that's still a thing. Remember when we were watching Robinhood's presentation, and I wrote you, I cannot believe these two yahoos just transferred like millions worth of stocks from one phone to another.
You're like, that's a
I'm
big
like,
screen
I'm
job.
like, what? Just in the phone. So yeah, I mean, like, I just wanted to put that out there. I agree with you. I do think that there is still a big group of people, and I think that this may correspond to kind of like the bigger spenders because the older and Western world people who have not only a phone but a computer and an iPad and another iPad in another room and whatever, who have more money to spend, still do have that a little bit of the psychological attachment to the computer. I think. I'm sure that will change. I'm sure that will change. But I just wanted to. That's like my thought, my first thought that I get when people talk about mobile first.
Like, I still need the big screen experience.
It's funny because I generally agree with that sentiment. Like, whenever I'm doing something that I deem like serious, it feels like easier to mess up on my phone for some
See,
reason.
it's not because I'm old, Vince.
Well, Kale's old too.
Yeah, I'm also old.
We're all old. Yeah.
Over 30 is a grandpa in
Yeah.
crypto. But yeah, ETHCC, my biggest takeaway was basically that Ethereum is back, baby. Cause like, I mean, obviously ETHCC happens every year, and but like this year, the sentiment on socials is just much more positive.
Mhm.
People seem to be much more excited in general than compared to the past couple years. It's been a it's been a rough couple years for ETH maxis. But yeah, just the energy of Ethereum ecosystem in general feels exciting again, which is nice. What I'm mostly excited about in particular, which I spoke to you guys about in the chat, um, is the Ethereum Community Foundation,
Hmm.
which is it's basically not a competitor to the EF, but it's a community version of the EF to kind of like light the fire under the EF's ass to get them to, you know,
I
Get
feel like
number
it's a
up.
setup. It's a setup for
basically.
like soap opera drama. That's what it feels like to me. The EF, the ECF, and then that marketing arm,
They
Etherealize.
realize, yeah.
Realize, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, the
So
Ethereum thing too. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's really cool. You know, it speaks to the decentralization of Ethereum. There's not
Hmm.
like one king. It's just a bunch of people coming together and trying to like build cool stuff. So I
I
think it's
think
cool
it,
to see.
I think it'd be interesting to see what follow through they have because I do
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
like E3 was like big and splashy. And they're like the Ethereum Foundation's like we're gonna be marketing and institutional adoption, and then I haven't seen anything since that announcement.
yeah. Definitely agree.
but I think like it's interesting that it feels to me like a lot of that sentiment of like Ethereum is back, baby, is fueled by this increasingly enmeshed intersection of DeFi and TradFi.
Hmm.
And whether this is true or not, but at least Ethereum, the Ethereum community is feeling and talking and positioning itself as being like we were talking about mobile and computer, the big, stable, secure computer
Yep.
of the smart contract chains, you know? So, like, for institutions, and I believe Vitalik in an interview actually said this, that for institutions, like, speed is not necessarily the biggest factor.
Hmm.
Security, privacy, reliability, the fact that as of August, Ethereum, I hope I don't jinx Ethereum saying this, but will have been up for 10 straight years. And then this clip follows me to my death, you know, like this is, she is the one who did it, you
Katya
know, if
killed Eve.
anything
Katia
happens,
brought it
yeah.
down.
Yeah, but for 10 straight years, you know, with this reliability, uptime, etc., you know, consistent development, consistent upgrades, etc., that it is the destination for, you know, for institutional infrastructure for bringing blockchain, TradFi onto the blockchain. So like all those like upstarts, it's nice to have speed, it's nice to have fun, it's nice to whatever, but when you need the real deal, Ethereum is it. So I think that's the main thing that's fueling the sentiment, like
Hmm.
that we are not just still relevant, we are going to be the most relevant chain to this future.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I hope you're
totally
right.
agree with that sentiment. Because like the past year or so, Solana people have been flexing on ETH, you know, and it felt like Solana actually was possibly an ETH killer for a little bit, you know, and I feel like it's the sentiment has completely rolled back over again, and people are like, nah, ETH is actually here to stay. Go away, Solana.
I mean, is Solana the next Polkadot? Who knows?
Oh God.
Very possible.
I do also like that there was a lot of talk about privacy at ETHCC as well. I do feel like that's kind of been bubbling under the surface for the community for a very long time, and like it's finally gaining momentum in a hopefully meaningful way. But I guess we'll see. But Katya set me up for a great transition, so we won't really talk much about privacy. Instead, we're going to talk about Ripple and Circle applying for banking licenses. And I made that Mary Poppins joke, which is probably a movie that you've not seen, Kale, am I right?
Yeah, no, I have no idea
Yeah.
what the reference was.
Interestingly, a movie I haven't seen either or read the
What?
book.
Wow.
Well, there's a run on the banks at the end because some old man is trying to steal a nickel from a child, and the child's like, "Give me my nickel, give me my money," and then everyone's like, "The bank's not letting people take their money out," and there's a run on the bank.
Oh, that's
Jeez.
cute. That's very cool. Yeah.
But yeah, so I can't believe neither of you seen Mary Poppins. You have homework for next week. It's a good movie.
I mean,
Uh
I'm curious now.
yeah.
Wait, so
So
the original or the remake?
the original,
Come on, Kate.
please.
What kind of
The
question was that?
face, that face.
No, the original. But yeah, so we see Circle and Ripple applying for banking licenses, and I'm intrigued by this. because I feel like Robinhood is working on becoming a bank, but they're not actually applying for a banking license. Instead, they are just
Yes.
using, I don't think they will. Instead, they're just
No.
going to be using other banks and being the technology layer on top of that. And this feels different from that. So on the one hand, I like it, but on the other hand, I'm like, are we just gonna have a bunch of different like small regional banks now? Kale, talk to me about this.
Yeah, I kind of like arrived at the same question, because like I don't see the need for this. Like it feels like just sharks coming in to like get the first mover. Um yeah, I don't know. Like it's cool to see the stablecoin into banking pipeline
Mhm.
happening. But
There certainly is a natural alignment there for sure.
yeah, yeah, and it makes sense. There are alignments, but like I want to see. It's cool to see the pipeline beginning. I want to see more than just Ripple, though.
Yeah.
I feel like you guys and listeners maybe know how I feel about Ripple, but it's not even just a Ripple thing. It's just I want to see more than one company with their fingers in the pie. So I think it's a step probably in the right direction if we want to see on-chain blockchain technology in TradFi. But yeah, let's keep it going. Let's see who's next.
Katya?
Well, Circle, so it's Circle and Ripple
Yeah.
who have applied, and I believe I read somewhere that there's speculation that maybe Coinbase will as well, and
Hmm.
so I'm kind of looking forward to understanding because I don't yet what the end game of all this is like because some days when you hear about this like oh they're getting a banking license there it's like everything is converging and it's just more of the same like more banks more like what I'm trying to see what is the advantage to the um kind of self-custody decentralization conscious user
Hmm.
in all of these crypto companies having this kind of access and this kind of integration with traditional finance. I'm sure like who is incepting who?
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Because if crypto is incepting TradFi, then I guess that's what we were going for all along
Hmm.
to kind of change it and like turn it out and make it something different. But if it's actually TradFi incepting crypto and being like, yeah, come, we'll recognize you, come, you'll be part of the club, yeah. And then you come in and drink the Kool-Aid and you turn into them then that's not what we were going for. So,
I wonder at the end of the day if this is kind of to Kale's point, just decentralization in how it's actually going to work, and as you were talking, Katya, I thought of how, SoFi and Ally kind of came in and are like, we're shaking up banking and we're being technology companies that also do banking. And taken a significant, market share away from the JP Morgan chases. And I think have made some banks change how they do business, but at the end of the day, no. Like Bank of America's app is still hot garbage. They offer 0.0001% interest on your money. Um, Whereas the SoFis and the allies of the world are like, yeah, come over here and get 4%. So maybe all of these are just going to coexist and be like different flavors of whatever finance you want to do. You want to do the Coinbase banking or the Circle banking? Cool. XYZ is their selling point, and I don't know if they're going to overtake TradFi, and I don't know if TradFi is going to absorb them because TradFi hasn't blinked at, the fintechs of the world. The only thing they blinked at was zero commission stock trading. And because I remember you used to be buying stock on, any of these brokers, and it'd be like, cool, for $100 of stock, that'll be a $10 fee. And I'm like, so I'm down 10% right off the get.
Insane. Yeah, that's a fun thought experiment. I've never thought of it as like genres of finance,
Yeah.
and it's like it's kind of like music or ice cream or anything that it's like there's lots of options and not one of them is like the right option. It just depends on what you specifically want to do. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely something I'm gonna ponder for a little bit because yeah, it's pretty cool to think about. Like, I think that's probably closer to what it'll end up being.
But that also makes me think of this. Now I can't recall what specifically I'm thinking about, but what this is a reference to. But how in consumerism, like in encouraging like sales and consumers, like you get giving you more choices. It's like an illusion of choice.
Hmm.
Like you have so many choices and you have all this freedom to choose from these things so that you forget that there are things over there, you know? So like all this freedom to choose the flavor of your bank, while it's actually all the same. And I think originally that's what crypto was kind of saying, you know, like a completely different, completely separate
Hmm.
thing. And I am not a maxi at all. Like I am a practicalist, I guess, but I do wonder whether it's just becoming a distraction uh in terms of like, oh, you know, you can do anything you want, but you still have to KYC and you still have to, you know, like we're drawing you a different box. Yeah. And
Well, you know what box that brings us to? The check mark box for another finished episode.
nice.
So thank you, dear listener, for listening. I hope you feel smarter because you are. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Our links are in the descriptions below. Leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts, and we will see you in the next episode.